So I am the founder of Evinco Club. Now, Evinco Club is an environment for high achievers and entrepreneurs to optimize their life. One of the guys this week within Evinco, he was at the event last night. He has closed the deal this week worth 2.5 million.
What is the one thing that they consistently do each day to be a part of Evinco Club?
They don't value short-term gratification. They look long-term.
Yeah.
How am I going to feel about this action that I take today in 3 months' time, in a year's time?
What are some skills they can initially take into their life and incorporate straight away to start networking better with other individuals?
The skills that I would really focus on, and these skills are going to sort of stick with you for the rest of your life.
Taylor, welcome to Manners Maketh Man. It's a pleasure having you on.
No, thank you for having me, bro. I appreciate it a lot.
So for my audience who don't know you, tell us a bit about yourself and exactly what do you do?
Yeah, so my name's Taylor Birch. I'm 25 years old, based in Manchester. So I am the founder of Evinco Club. Now, Evinco Club is an environment for high achievers and entrepreneurs to optimize their life. The three-pillar system that we believe is a fulfilled life, which is your health, mindset, and also growing wealth for yourself to have a great future.
So diving into a bit of your story and the idea of why you wanted to create Evinco Club, what was the initial steps for you to structure it in a way to bring the right people into the community?
So I think the idea came from a little bit of backstory about me. So when I was around 22, 23, I beforehand had worked a corporate job for a lot of years and also ran an e-commerce business alongside that job. Found that very stressful running both. So eventually took the dive into full-time e-commerce and also left the country, left the UK to go and travel the world, which is something that I've always wanted to do. Now, when I was traveling the world, I met a lot of different types of people, different cultures, different backgrounds, as you would probably expect.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of these people I met were very impressive, but I found a lot of these entrepreneurs, I don't feel like had all three pillars to which I believe living the most fulfilled life that you need. So I believe that your health is a very, very important thing. So being in the best shape you can possibly be in, especially as a young man, is super important. The things that can bring to your life, the respect you get from other people, it's something that for me has always been a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Mindset, so having, this sense of direction, the things that you want in life, very clear-headed, emotional control, and then also having the wealth side of it. Now, a lot of people might have two of those things, they might have one of those things and done it really well, but across all three, I don't believe that many people have optimized all three of those things.
Yeah.
And are living life to the most fulfilled sort of point that they can. So we wanted to create this to bring people together, to try and help people get the best of all three aspects.
Yeah, definitely.
So you might have, for example, an online fitness coach who's part of our Evinco Club. Absolutely sick shape, mindset's obviously on point there. They know what they want. They're disciplined, they train every day, but maybe they haven't been able to monetize the skill of their online coaching and maybe don't have the systems in place that they deserve. Going on to sort of another area, you might have someone in the e-commerce industry that in terms of wealth, in terms of creating sort of monetization from their business, they've smashed it, they're killing it, but they're putting that much time into the business that they're maybe not looking after their health and the mind, and it's, having health issues on them because they're not training as much as they probably should due to having to work so many hours in the business. Now, bringing people together that are all from different backgrounds and have different experiences, have different sort of day-to-day lives, and trying to let them understand together the importance of having all three. Like for me personally, I would rather try and have those all three balanced as much as possible than have one more or the other, which I think that's exactly why we try and bring those different types of people together.
I think that's excellent. I mean, I think with the three pillars thing as well, I mean, like you say, you don't have to have 100% capacity in each one of those. Even if you have 80% in each one and then you're able to lean on people inside of Evinco Club, it allows them to then get a fresh perspective from somebody else who's doing really well in that area and then incorporate it into their life. I mean, diving into some psychology, what are the main characteristics that you look for when bringing somebody into the community?
I'm a big believer that just someone's attitude and someone's will to learn, someone's whatever sort of background situation they're in, they will come into Evinco with a growth mindset. And I think with a growth mindset and when you are willing to learn from someone, whatever position they're in, Whether they've just started the business, they're literally trying to make their first £100, or whether you've got, you know, a 6-figure per month business. I think if you're that person who's willing to listen to both sides, because I believe everyone can teach you something, regardless of where they're at on their journey. So it's about respecting the other people inside. Everyone has something to offer. And that's why we try and keep it so tight-knit, because we want this group to be built on value exchange. So
definitely,
you can help this person may help you. And none of it's a salesy, like selling to each other. We want it to be just value exchange of good people helping good people, so that at the end, the ultimate result is that everybody wins.
Definitely. I mean, for the people listening, what are some skills they could initially take into their life and incorporate straight away to start networking better with other individuals?
I think the skills that, in my opinion now in this day and age, that if you're trying to make money online, you're trying to, you know, get out of your job and start working and monetizing online, the skills that I would really focus on, and these skills are going to sort of stick with you for the rest of your life, are sales, marketing, and content creation. And they're 3 things that I've really dialed in on for myself this year, and really tried to learn them from experts in each of the industry to pull it all together. And this is essentially what's helping Evinco grow at the speed it is. I think those 3 skills in whatever industry you are in will definitely help your business.
Yeah.
That's more on a business aspect, but I think in terms of personal skills, I think just having that growth mentality, always looking for network, always looking for new opportunities, and just that dog with a bone mentality, like every day waking up and just using your time to be as productive as possible, to create something for yourself, and understanding that essentially no one else is going to come and do it for you.
100%. I think a big part of it is making yourself into that attractive character first. Before you step into these networking rooms, how can you build yourself into a person of value, learn a high value skill to start off with, and then start incorporating the characteristics of, are you speaking correctly? Are you relaxed and confident when you're walking into these rooms? Can you articulate in a way which is going to allow you to get that value exchange to start off with? And I think that's super important. One question I wanted to ask you as well is, what's something that you've learned about human behavior from these high-level people inside your community so far? What is the one thing that they consistently do each day to be a part of Evinco Club?
I think one thing that I've noticed about all the high achievers, the people that are getting to the places that they want to in life, they don't value short-term gratification. They look long-term.
Yeah.
How am I going to feel about this action that I take today in 3 months' time, in a year's time? So they're always looking however many steps ahead. For example, like if I go out, you know, drinking on the weekend, every weekend, where is that going to leave me in a year's time? And that's not to say that you can't enjoy yourself. It's just about at times when you need to, don't seek what feels comfortable in the short term. Think about the situation and look long term where that's going to actually position you.
I think also that leadership mentality that you have, you're not, as a leader, you're not always going to be able to satisfy the crowd. Sometimes you are going to have to make decisions for the short term that could negatively affect the outlook you have on everybody else. But for the long term, it's actually more effective to do that, to grow a sustainable business. Is there anything in your journey so far that you can highlight where you've had to neglect the short-term gratification for the long-term gratification?
Yeah, I think in my first business, it was in the e-commerce industry. It was my first business that I ever started. I was around 18, 19, and it was when COVID had just sort of begun.
Yeah.
And I had a business with 2 guys that I was friends with, and, you know, great guys. The business and stuff was running fine, but did I see the long-term value in working with those 2 people? I would say no.
Yeah.
They went on to do their own things, and they've both done very well in their respected industries. But I think making that decision at a young age to understand that my creative spark and my vision, I believe when you have other people involved, sometimes can be quite difficult to push out, because it isn't just all you.
Yeah.
So yeah, making decisions that maybe people weren't happy with at the time and things like that. I think that for me, being bold and just trusting whatever you do will work out, and just keep stick with your decision throughout and never kind of differ from it. I think, that was something I learned quite a young age. And now that, 5 years down the line or so, I think learning that from that experience early on, I can really take it into future businesses and how I work with people now, how people work, if they make bold decisions and they stick with their opinion, and basically being a man of their word. And they're the sort of people that I like to work with, people who are a man of the word, people who just stick to the things they say.
Definitely.
And they never sort of drop quality or value in the things they're doing. Man of your word is a huge thing, especially when you're working with people in business.
I think the one thing I've noticed as well, when you are working with these high-level entrepreneurs, most people, they see that shiny object, they see the end result, but there's been so many like trials and tribulations and rejections that they've gone through. How would you say rejection, and if you could highlight one piece of your life where you've gone through a bit of rejection, how did that shape you? And what was your mindset in that moment that people could incorporate in their lives to become successful?
Yeah, now I feel like to get to the point of success, you're obviously going to have to face rejection. I always look at rejection and failure as like, if you knew you were only going to fail another 30 times, for example, then you'd be willing to fail a lot quicker than if you have that unknown number. So I just think keep trying things until something sticks, and just keep doing it with brute force until something works for you, because it will work eventually. For me, in terms of rejection, failure, I had, like I said, my e-commerce business, and I had a time where my business was really, really failing. I was losing a lot of money, and like mentally, that as a young man of 20 years old put a lot of strain and a lot of stress on my mind at the time.
Sure, yeah.
Both in personal life and in business, I was just struggling to keep up with it all. And I think going through that and coming out the other side, and I could have quit there and shut that business down, but I was just not willing to let anything beat me, and never letting, I could have quit and called it a day there. And that was, that experience in my first business was a bad one. And, that life maybe isn't for me, but I think just understanding that, like, most people who I know who are high level entrepreneurs who have got to that point maybe where they wanted to in life, all of them have got stories like this where, they lost business partners, they lost friends, they lost a lot of money, they lost a lot of time, which is obviously your most valuable asset. I think that's what it is when over time you're building something and you lose quite a lot of it. I think that's like the sucker punch almost. Is the worst thing. It's time, and how much time is it going to take me to build that up and get to that point where it was. But it's all a learning curve, and when you're a few years down the line and you get that little bit older, you can look back and just appreciate that those failures and stuff are what essentially make you success in the end.
Definitely. I don't think you could ever say where you're going to go in life, because it's very unpredictable.
That's very true.
Things are going to change, markets change. If you can have the emotional intelligence to be able to shift when market shifts, you can't predict what higher powers are going to do. And I think having that emotional intelligence to soak everything up like a sponge and seeing it from a perspective of this is a lesson, right? Because I think business is also a mirror in a way. You're not so much building that next funnel or making that next piece of content. You're actually building yourself as an attractive character to start off with. Somebody who can withstand a lot of hard times and keep moving forward in the struggle. If you're able to do that, you're probably going to beat 99% of people. Now, something I wanted to touch on is I think a part of being an entrepreneur is you have to kind of see the system for what it is. Now, a stat I want to mention to you is there's the study that's come out now that 80% of A-grade students are working for D-grade students. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me, because you're taught from a very young age to show up, wear the right uniform, make sure that you're always showing up for the system, essentially. And the D-grade students, they never get that pat on the back. They never get that satisfaction. And that's a lot of what I've done with my program as well. I've tailor-made it in a way where it's a hybrid approach to suit the learning style of whoever's coming into the program. What's their psychology? How do they learn in a certain way? One thing I wanted to ask you is, what do you think your learning style is, and how has it shaped what you're doing today?
Yeah, I think at school and things like that in the early years, I wasn't particularly a bad student. Did the things I was meant to do. I did okay. Like I say, I definitely wasn't an A grade student. But one thing I've always known about myself, and that I've seen myself as different for the other, is my creative spark and vision was definitely always unmatched. I've got friends and stuff that have done a lot better than me. They've gone on to get degrees and they've done extremely well in their respective industries, and fair play to them. But for me, I've just always looked at people that have lived the lifestyle that I want to live and just think, how does someone achieve this? And it isn't through having great GCSE or great A levels or uni degrees. I personally, depending on the job you're trying to achieve, then obviously some of the time you need those things. But
Definitely,
in our world, in trying to be an entrepreneur, a lot of it is self-taught, and I think it's like school and the system these days. Like you say, we are programmed to sort of go to school, A levels, uni, get a job, work. And it's like, that's fine. And a lot of people live that lifestyle and they're very content with it. And if we all wanted the same things in life, it would be pretty boring.
it would be, yeah.
So for the people who don't really want to live that lifestyle, who they understand that there is a little bit more out there. And I think the turning point for me was, I never, so when I left school, I didn't ever want to go to university or anything like that.
Yeah.
My plan was always to, 16 years old, get a job. I actually was an electrician when I first started when I was 16. Over the years, built my money up. A couple of years down the line, started my first business. Now, I just put everything into that business. So everything I was making financially, that was always the plan. I'm going to make enough money doing something online where I can take it anywhere in the world. And my dream as quite a young kid was always to just go travel the world and see as many places as possible.
Do you think a big part of the reason why you want to build this wealth and this lifestyle is that freedom element? Do you think that's one of the biggest?
Yeah, I think financial, location, and especially the main one is time freedom. Like if you can have those three things, where I'm not saying that I want to be pulling in £1 million a month, where I need all this materialistic fancy stuff. Like, it's nice to have luxury things, but they're definitely not important. Financial freedom for me is just no stress over finances. You can kind of do what you want. Everything's just covered on all bases. You can go and see a place if you want to go see it. Now, location freedom, I think, is being able to work from anywhere in the world. Like, it's not that I don't want to work. It's being able to work from anywhere. I think that's a very useful thing to have.
That's a big thing for me as well, is the location and the freedom of my days. I don't want to have a life where it's all planned out. Sometimes I do want to just do a random thing because life is unpredictable, life is short. And I think the thing for me as well, I've had materialistic items this year, the end of last year, and it fades very quickly. The novelty wears off. And I saw a quote from Shia LaBeouf the other day, which was, if I can offer up my suffering to help other people, not so much take away their experience, because I think it's really important that as an individual, you learn from people that have lived an experience that you may want to go through, but actually go through it yourself. I'm going to finish my life and have an impact on others that is going to be a lot more fulfilling to myself over the cars, over the watches, because that is true fulfillment, helping your fellow man out. And I know we briefly discussed this already, but I think there's so many people now that they will not give without getting back. They're unable to do it. So, I mean, that's a big part of obviously networking in itself. Like you said, the value exchange. And I think you can have assets and defects that work in your favor. So you could be like a really impatient person, and that could work in your favor because you're getting stuff done. And you need to look at that and you think, all right, that's a positive in my life, but it could also be a negative because you want that short-term fulfillment.
Yeah.
So you have to weigh up both things and look at life from a new perspective and go, okay, it's never going to be a smooth, plain journey. And you don't want it to be, because what is happiness? What is joy? All it is it wouldn't be there if you didn't have the trials and the tribulations in your life. I want to go back to creativity that you mentioned in your earlier life. Now, for me, I feel like now the world is moving at a very quick pace with AI. And I'm sure you've met a lot of business owners that are replacing a lot of their back-end systems with AI. How important do you think it is to lean into your creative side as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think AI is a great thing, and I use it. And my business partners and things like that use it quite heavily within our business to, obviously, just to automate tasks as quickly as possible, which essentially buys back time. But the way I look at it is it buys back time to have that creative time. And I think,
Sure,
as good as AI can be, as good as, as it develops and advanced it can actually get, I think the human mind, you can't create that through an AI system.
yeah, definitely.
Some minds are so creative and things like that whatever technology is built, the human mind will always beat it with things like that. I think that's just because it isn't. The human mind's obviously got that emotional factor that AI obviously doesn't have.
Yeah, definitely.
For example, when we run our events with Evinco, like, we like to sit there and understand the person. What do these people come to these events for? Why did they come? What are they actually gaining about it? How do they go away feeling as well? AI can't do that. Do you know what I mean? So
for sure. You can't inflict that emotion that a human can. And I mean, that feeling element as well. I mean, even if we touch on a bit about personal branding, I think the shift people need to make is move away from the value you provide in a way and focus more on belief shifting style content, because what that allows people to do is feel a certain way and be part of something greater, like join a movement. How have you incorporated that into Evinco Club, the movement element of it?
Yeah, so like I say, personal branding obviously is a huge, huge thing these days. And now I base everyone who has a personal brand will base their personal brand off a couple of key pillars. So, for example, you should choose 3 things that you naturally are interested in. So I try and base my personal brand around fitness, mindset, well-being, self-development, and then also business, which is Evinco. So those 3 kind of all come in together. People like to see the content from different areas. You merge different content ideas across. Now, I think having those 3 pillars, you're covering all bases. People like to see a little bit about me, what I do in my personal life, like the nurture side of content, the growth content, which is a little bit more broad. So it's fitness, it's business, like what goes on. Look, it might apply to 90% of your audience, but then you also have that industry content, which is really, really dialed down to about 10%, maybe the people that are seeing it who are interested in exactly what you're doing. So, for example, for me, Evinco, they actually may be interested in coming aboard, when more information. So I think putting that information out there in different styles is extremely, extremely important.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me as well, with personal branding, the relatability side of it, you have to be vulnerable with your story, your experiences, what you've gone through. For everybody listening, what piece of advice would you give somebody who wants to start their personal brand, but they are scared of letting people into their world a little bit?
I think it's a cliche one, but being authentic. If you're trying to put on an act for the camera, if you're trying to be someone that you're not, it will make things a lot harder for you.
People can sense it as well, can't they?
Yeah, and I think eventually it'll come out, not on your favour. In terms of sort of like, the bit where people are a bit worried about maybe picking up a camera and showcasing what they're at. There's a lot of creative and brilliant people out there that are probably terrified to do that. And I think in the younger years and things like that, I was maybe a little bit more on the shy side, but always finding that comfort zone and just keep pushing it. And over the years, you'll find that I've gone from not really liking speaking in front of anyone or even starting a conversation or even ordering like food in a restaurant. I used to feel a little bit awkward doing it, to now being able to speak in front of 200, 300, 400, 500 people. And it doesn't bother me, because over time, you just become more confident in the things you're doing. And when you're confident in the things that you are speaking about, you're just speaking naturally about yourself, about your story. And you live and breathe it. So essentially, it just comes easy to you. But you're always going to have that side of it, like, oh, it's cringy, this is this, and people don't like to see it. But I just think focus on the things that matter to you. And if that's something that you need to do to get you to from A to B, and content is needed, then you're gonna just have to do it and face up that not everyone likes the things that you do in life. But if you enjoy it, it makes you happy and it gives you fulfillment, then don't worry about it, because there'll be a lot of people in a much smaller circle that will enjoy it, and they're the sort of people that you need to be around and be aligned with anyways.
Yeah, definitely. I think personal branding is a big part of the world we're moving into now. And I saw a stat the other day, which was businesses that have a CEO who's also incorporating a personal brand, the personal brand actually 2.5x's over the actual business profile itself. And I think it's because people buy into people. They don't, like high level people, they're not looking for more information. They're looking for a leader to get them to their goals a lot quicker. So that's the relating with the belief shifting content. How can you incorporate that as much as possible? I think another point that I want to touch on as well is confidence is built on you doing the things that you say you're going to do to yourself. Like if I wake up in the morning and I say I'm going to do X amount of tasks and I complete them tasks, I know that I have a certain level of confidence because I'm not lying to myself.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So if you can just do that every single day, it doesn't have to be like really drastic changes. It just has to be little steps each day to get to your goal a lot quicker.
It's just getting those repetitions in, you know, every day doing the same thing. And if you keep doing that over time, it just becomes part of your daily life.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And it just builds discipline, doing the same thing over and over again and showing to yourself that you can do it for that period of time and you will do it every day. It builds discipline over time, and it also builds trust and credibility in yourself. It's like what I said before about people who are in great shape, in top 1% physique. People who see that, they walk in a room, you know, you're in good shape, you're dressing well, you look after yourself, you smell good. People resonate with that and they go, I understand that this guy is a disciplined individual because he's getting up every single day, he's going to the gym, he's taking care of himself, he's still running a successful business. So all those things show that that person every single day is getting up, getting after it, and, you know, staying disciplined throughout.
Yeah, I think a big part of discipline as well, we live in a time where we have the most amount of opportunity at our fingertips, but we also have the most amount of distractions as well. The Netflix, you know, going on loads of nights out, consistently indulging things that are going to negatively affect your health. I think we fall into it naturally. I think it's part of the human condition as well to crave what other people have and be a part of the crowd. When yourself have found yourself in those moments where you do want to lean into distractions, have you got anything that you tell yourself to stop yourself from doing it?
Yeah, I think I used to get distracted with like I say, the partying side of things, and maybe thinking a little bit too much about what other people are doing. You know, oh, how's that person done that? How have they got that car? What, you know, leaning into a little bit too much what people do. And I think the simple answer to it is just remove the noise.
Yeah, 100%.
So if, for example, Instagram's a distraction, only follow people that inspire you, that you want to actually see their content, and you go, you know, every time I see their content, it makes me feel better than I did before. So people like content creators that you maybe are inspired by, or like people like, for example, me following yourself. I enjoy watching your podcast. I enjoy the content that you create with the people that I've seen. So I think removing the noise and people who don't actually add value to your life, it's not to say that it's a hate or a personal thing. It's more just, if that's the thing that distracts you, then remove it.
I know there's this huge stigma around losing your old friends that are holding you back. And there's a saying a wise man once said, is that if you have a broken bird, if you fix the bird, it's going to fly off anyway. So I don't think it's so much of you can't help your childhood friends and completely disregard them. But I do think there is an element of it where when you are growing, when you are moving in the direction, you do have to remove the noise quite a lot, and you have to be so kind of selfish in a way to become selfless. And as soon as you kind of reframe it in that way, you can be more authentic with your life, and you can, this is who I am. And I think when you do that as well, it does build trust as well, because I always find the people that say, no, I'm not going to do that because it's not benefiting my life, I have more trust with them, and I'm like, you're being authentic because you are just following your journey.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying yes to everything. And even if you have got a busy day and you know that something's going to hold you back, the moment where you say no, you're good with yourself.
That's true, yeah.
And that ties in with the attractive character thing of having the emotional intelligence to spot those things as quickly as possible. Aside from business, building the community, I want to dive in a bit more about your personal life as well. How do you think building this discipline, building this business at a young age, do you think it may have negatively affected relationships in your life at all?
Yeah, I think it definitely can affect relationships and things like that. I think, like as mentioned before, when things go wrong, especially at a young age, you don't really know how to like emotionally control yourself to failure, rejection, because you see success all around you on Instagram, on whatever social media platforms. No one ever posts failures, like, so everything you see is success, and when everything in your world's kind of going wrong, I think the way you maybe treat people isn't probably fair, and that's something that I've probably done in the past in family life, personal life. You know, I think maybe at the time when things are going wrong, I look back at that behaviour and think, yeah, I wasn't probably a good person, a nice person at the time. It wasn't necessarily that I was trying to do it out of being a bad person. It's just that,
it's not out of malice, is it?
No, it's just when those things are going wrong. And I think at like 20, 21 years old, you just don't know how to emotionally control yourself. So there's something that I really worked on. Now being 25, that little bit older, I think I can accept when things go wrong. And I look at it as my problems are the things that are going wrong. Literally no one else is going to solve them for me. So I either kind of step up to the mark, sort it out, and don't let it ever bother me, and carry on with my day and look at the positives.
Yeah.
You can't control a lot of factors, so the best thing is the ones that are in your control, use them. The ones that are external, just don't worry about it, because there's nothing you can do about it anyway. So, yeah, that's something that I definitely think in the past sort of year or so, I've done a lot of researching and a lot of reading on external sources of things you can control, and really started focusing on the ones that I can control and really giving my all to them. And
whatever you can control as well, like, use those assets as much as possible, because like you say, like, things are going to happen in your life. You can't dictate that. It's just life. It's natural. And I think if you can submit into that kind of spirituality as a guy and say, it's not up to me, it's up to something else. And I mean, I'll ask you this question, bro. Would you say you're particularly spiritual, or?
In some ways, yeah, but I think that's more in the last few years. I've gone into that sort of thing. I'm a big believer in, like, you force things into your brain every day. Like, I'm gonna have this, and this is how it's gonna work. But, like, for example, in my journal every day, I write something that I'm grateful for,
which is fantastic. Yeah,
and I also write something that I desire. So, like, I will have this. I want this. I want it for this reason, and I'm going to get it. So it's like speaking positively and, like, sort of manifesting it into your life. I've found that from a young age, everything I've ever told myself in my head that I'm going to do, I've done it. Whether it's taken me longer than it actually was going to, I always get around to doing it. And I've always had that mentality, and, like, friends and stuff have said to me, like, you always, like, find a way. And that is one thing that I've always noticed about myself. I will always find a way if I want something. And, like, my family always say it to me as well. They say, you know, hats off to you. If you want a certain thing, you go out and get it. And it is, like, again, I like to touch on it, but it's that dog with a bone mentality. Just don't put it down until you've got it. Speak to as many people. If someone's got what you want, or something that you like, or you need some advice off them, reach out to them, learn off them. There's a way to do it, and that's something we'll probably touch on further down the line about, like, the power of networking and understanding the difference between transactional and value exchange relationships.
I think for me as well, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, they do in some ways overplan the future way too much, because it's kind of that natural thing of, I want to have complete control over everything that happens in my life. And I think when you do that, you don't let anything in. And it's not a good representation of manifestation at all, because you're not actually diving into now, the present moment. You're thinking about too far ahead instead of thinking about now. And one thing I do in my coaching program is I want to understand your goals to know where you want to be, but structure it in a way where what are the characteristics in myself to get me to that point? And then you implement it each day. So just have your basic calendar there. Don't interrupt it with the noise. Concentrate on tasks that are going to move the needle. And I think it's that Steve Jobs thing I heard the other day of, he had this very unique mindset of the 80-20% rule. So anything that was the 80%, he'd remove it and he'd just concentrate on the 3 tasks that day that were going to move the needle in his business. And once he focused on them, you inevitably achieve your goal. That is part of manifestation, because I think if you keep on telling the universe, I want this, you naturally repel it anyway, because you're telling the universe, I don't already have this. So you're not opening that space to retrieve anything. So yeah, I mean, manifestation is a huge thing for me, diving into that spirituality. I also think it upholds standards in society if you use it in the right way, because it's also, I want to touch on a bit about lust as well as a man, because back to the distraction things, you see guys that will fall into that lustful state of the distractions, the dopamine. How would you define lust, and why should people remove lust from their life?
I think it's what we touched on before as well. It's like there's so many distractions in the world today, but there is also so many opportunities. But the distractions are very, very readily available to us, whereas the opportunities are a little bit harder to find. I mean, they are out there, but they're much harder to find than something that can distract you in 10 minutes. Like, we can even get food delivered to us like that now. We can get everything on demand. And I don't necessarily think it is a good thing, because I think going back to sort of like early human days, it's like we don't have that sort of thing in our heads anymore where we have to go and work to get things. And over time, things are just getting easier and easier to live. And I think that's why people just don't have the discipline. Touching again on like the short-term gratification, I think the best way to look at it, if you're someone who kind of is struggling with that, and that's conversations I've had with a few of the guys within Evinco, that, you know, they're very successful people, but sometimes other things are distracting them, and they're finding, you know, how can I control this? Before you make a decision, start evaluating, like, what is this decision going to make for my life? If I would go back to sort of like on a nutrition basis, if I eat this meal now, how am I going to feel after it? Is it actually going to move the needle and get me into better shape? Is it, you know, is it going to make me feel good about myself in weeks to come? And if it isn't, think about like, well, why am I doing this to myself then? And I think when you start like really getting out of autopilot and start thinking, well, you know, is this actually going to does this align with my long-term vision? If it doesn't, well, why are you doing it? It's as simple as that. It's just, you do that over and over again. Eventually, you just rewire your brain to understand that isn't a good thing for me. So leave it behind.
I think a lot of wealth creation is being in that right energy state as well, because, you know, if I see somebody who's really disciplined, they've worked on their body, but they're not financially successful, I can have a conversation with them, flip their mindset just a little bit, because they've already got the foundation, they've already got the mindset. And discipline equals self-love. Self-love equals wealth creation,
overall
right?
happiness
as well.
Yeah.
Having the happiness within yourself to say, you know, I am doing the right things. And one thing I would say, I don't think it's necessarily the right thing to be so disciplined your whole life. You do have to let go a little bit. I completely
agree with that.
But know when to let go in the right moments.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like you say, you've got to let go, and just sitting yourself in a room working on this business and stuff like that. Sometimes you have to do that and get aggressive with things to get it to a point that it needs to be. But I'm a big believer in just enjoying the life, you know what I mean? Going and seeing new places, meeting new people, discovering new things. We're not put here just to work. And the reason that a lot of us start in entrepreneurship is due to, like we've said before, time, location, financial freedom. So you've got to a point where maybe you're starting to get a little bit that, why not use it? Because that's exactly why you started the journey. Enjoy the fruits of your labour is what I always say. Go and see that place, because the years go by pretty fast as well. Like, I'm not trying to say in any means that I'm old or anything like that, but
yeah, it does,
like, those, say, 5 years from when I was maybe, starting this first business have absolutely flown by. And do I look back at them and think like, yes, I've lived my life to the absolute maximum? I'd probably say so. I've traveled all around the world, got friends everywhere, and essentially that's left me in a position now where I've got great people around me. I've got a great business, great family. Things are just going well for me. And, I think that's due to where you position yourself in the world. If you stay in one place and don't go and see things and don't go and meet new people and don't understand how other people live and maybe implement some of the way they live into your life, because ultimately you've never been exposed to it.
I think being exposed to the experience is really key as well, because then you can identify the lessons that you need to learn from it yourself. And I don't think I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. I think you meet people for a reason. You learn things from different people that have lived different experiences as well. And I also want to tie this into kind of society a little bit as well, because I'm sure you've probably heard this quote before, but it's, I allow manipulation to find out where my enemy wants me to go. Then I use my mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrators. So what this means is, if I can understand what somebody wants me to believe, I can then position myself in a way that is going to be best suited to my life. And if you don't understand, in many ways, what a higher power, whether it's been marketed to you, a certain clothing item, a certain piece of food that I'm eating that's negatively affecting my health, then I might end up there by accident. So I need to have the emotional intelligence to look at it and go, what does this person want me to do? Okay? Figure out if it's going to affect you or not, and then make the decision after it. So I do think in many ways people let too many outside source opinions affect their lives too much. And it's just about being rooted into your core, like we said, having that internal belief within yourself that you are on the right path. Okay, cool. So we've discussed a bit about business, your personal life, your story. I want to dive in a bit more about the present and what you're doing right now in Evinco Club.
Yeah, so Evinco Club is hosted as an online community. So we host through school, through WhatsApp, mainly for engagement reasons on WhatsApp, to try and connect everyone together as much as we can. So within Evinco Club, we've got founders, creators, high achievers of all different industries. So we've got a range from, marketing specialists to online fitness coaches, content creators. So it's very, very vast, all of the people in there. And now everyone's at different stages of the journey. It isn't the case you've got to be making X amount. I don't want it to be like that. I just want it to be people who are, like we said before, have that attitude, that growth mentality, and want that more out of life, essentially, and don't want that mediocre sort of lifestyle. They just want to keep pushing for more. So how we host Evinco is through online calls. So once a week, we always do an accountability call. And then we also bring in the guys. So, for example, we had one of the guys come on last week, do a high ticket sales closing course. Now, I believe whether you're in sales or not, having sales skills is great for any aspect of life, because
sales is necessary, right?
Learning conviction, learning how to sell yourself, and essentially self-belief. So bringing that mindset of different industries in that you can then go and apply to your own industry, I think is extremely important. So we have our skill optimization sessions as well, where we'll all jump on, like I say, usually the Thursday or Friday, everyone jumps on a skill optimization session. And then we're obviously hosting events. So we actually hosted an event last night in Manchester, which was 20 entrepreneurs coming together. We did sauna and ice bath to start the day. I always say break the ice, do something that's good for the body. And then we all went out in the evening and went to Gaucho's private dining experience. So Marty had the pleasure while he's up in Manchester to get himself there.
It was very good. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I just think connecting good people, good people who are all on the same things in life or going in the same direction is essentially like why we started Evinco. I think there's a huge gap in the market, especially for the UK. And I know that's something we touched on before about how the UK is going and how the UK system and things like that. But in my opinion, in the UK, people aren't out to help each other. Everything is everyone trying to sell to each other. How can I make money off this person? Whereas in Evinco, we are built on value exchange. So, you might, like I say, we mentioned it again before, someone might need a marketing specialist to help them with some of their content, but then someone needs someone who helps with content. And it's like that cycle of you help me, I'll help you. And I believe everything comes round eventually.
It's like that leaning on each other a little bit as well. And I want to touch a bit more on your group calls. So you mentioned that you had high ticket sales masterclass. Is there any other business models? Do you try and touch on all of them, or is it just... Yeah.
So like I said before, like, we're really trying to hone in on like sales, marketing, and content creation, because I believe whatever industry you're in, you need those 3 skills to essentially grow your business, especially if it's in the online space. So sales, the obvious reason, you need to be able to sell whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
And convince people to get involved or buy a product or whatever it is you're doing. You need to be able to sell yourself, essentially. Not necessarily sell a product, but sell yourself.
For sure, yeah.
Marketing. Well, in this day and age, it's the most clear-cut one. If you don't market correctly, no one's ever going to see what you're doing.
I think 80% of the conversion happens in your marketing anyway. And that 20% of... I discussed this with... I can't remember who it was last night, but it was about how, you need a good offer. Because if the offer's not good, no one's going to buy it anyway. And then that's when the conversion happens. So I think having pre-selling things in your marketing is going to allow you to sell the product a lot better, wherever it is. And touching on a bit about if you're selling coaching or you're selling a product, they're 2 different styles of marketing. With a product, you can be a bit more generalized with your approach on, you can talk to the masses a little bit more. I think if you're dialing in more of an ICP, focus more on talking to the individual themselves, because that's what's actually going to build the connection. Instead of trying to talk to everyone, focus on a specific person, talk to them like it's your mate. And I think that works really well. So with your coaching calls as well, you are hosting them on School, right?
Yeah, School, is the host platform we use. It's good for hosting resources, calls, and it's a fairly easy system to use. So everyone's found that really good so far.
Are most people coming in through your Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, and I think like people just see from my personal brand and the things we're doing, and how we're trying to host it. We're not trying to be too bold and loud, because a lot of this lifestyle content and things like that is all focused around cars and like what we spoke about for the materialistic items. But we're trying to host it more on community and about like people coming together, like at our events, understanding that being involved in these events and the opportunities that can arise from them, and essentially just creating a new network for yourself that you didn't previously have.
Definitely. And let's say we did this podcast 5 years from now. Where do you see yourself in the future? Where do you see Evinco Club going?
Yeah, so we will create definitely the UK's largest network community in the online space. Awesome. And I also, the guys who are inside of Evinco, who are all trying to get to a point where they want that location, time, freedom, I look to basically create that dream for as many people possible. I see in 5 years' time this being the world's largest networking community for entrepreneurs. All the guys who've been in there from the start, we have complete freedom where we want to live. We're all working together in different areas of the world. People have actually started businesses together through this. Things like investments. So like we start doing things that are a little bit more fun. Like we say we like to enjoy ourselves. We've got to that point. I said to you, 5 of us guys are going to invest in a beach club, which is something I always enjoy beach clubs, for example, when I'm on holiday. So like to own my own beach club with like 5 people, for example, we've been in Evinco for a long time, and we all invest money in and just have it as just a cool project. So
yeah, for sure. I like
building
that.
an empire together and understanding that going alone will only get you so far, but if you go together, it's unbelievable the results that you can get to a group of guys together.
I think having that lone wolf mentality, it doesn't get you anywhere. And I felt the energy last night from all the guys that turned up as well. And I also think there's a big accountability thing in there, where it's like when you see one of your mates doing well and you're not doing anything during your day, let's say everybody in Evinco Club's woken up in a villa, they're all working out and you're still sleeping in, it's going to trigger something inside of you, right?
Yeah. How does it make you feel that someone else is pushing harder than you? And it's not, this is the environment we're trying to build. It's not in a jealousy or a despiteful way. We want to try and build it where, like, for example, one of the guys this week within Evinco, he was at the event last night. He has closed a deal this week worth 2.5 million.
insane.
You sort of look at yourself and think, this guy.
There's levels to it.
Yeah, there's levels to it, but it also pushes you to go even harder.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that isn't to say that, everyone's journey is different and those successes come week to week. And that's what we found on the accountability calls. Every week, someone's wins are different. Within the week, everyone has different ones. One week, someone really might outshine everyone else and you think, fair play. But the reception that we're receiving from people is like, that's brilliant, mate. Well done.
You're happy for your mate,
that?
yeah.
Almost intrigued, like, what have you done to do that? What have you found work to be able to get that result? And then 2-3 weeks later, someone's gone, I tried that and it actually worked for me. So it's about sharing that value, sharing those wins. Again, we don't want to just always talk about wins. What have you done that hasn't worked? So the losses, the mistakes you've made. So every week we'll go through like wins, losses, problems you faced, and how can we all come together to resolve them? Because the chances are, if you've had this problem in your business, they've probably had it in their one at some point.
Yeah,
so
definitely. Yeah.
Coming together, instead of trying to solve it on your own, like without that lone wolf mentality, and you feel like sometimes you're just banging the head off the wall and the answer's right in front of you in someone in your network. I think it's very important to just share experiences because, for example, if you're in a corporate job in an office, everyone's in there every day together and they're working together, they're talking about the things that they're working on. Whereas, yes, this business might be just yourself or just your business partner, but why not open it up to? I always think like, say, one brain on a problem, or having like 30 brains on a problem, all with different ideas,
Inputs
different creative, different logical reasoning together. I feel like anything can be conquered. Like the amount of, if you put it all together, for example, you've got, say, 10 years experience in podcasting, content creation.
Yeah.
I've got 10 years experience in what I do. They've got another person 10 years. You add that all up, you've got hundreds of years of experience. That's something that none of us can attain because we're not going to be around that long.
Exactly, yeah.
So you might have 300, 400, 500 years of experience in one room, which is something that, like I say, none of us will ever have. And even if we try to have that, we'll never have it, especially in different industries as well. So it's really powerful understanding that, listen to the experts in the industry, and you can't be an expert in every industry. So leaning on each other and having that skill set and that vast skill set all in one room is,
I think it's fantastic.
Powerful.
I think it's fantastic as well because you're connecting the dots for entrepreneurs to go and meet other like-minded people as well. And I think when you do start your entrepreneurial journey, it can feel very daunting because you're going against the grain of what we've been told to do. And it can be difficult just through social media to go and meet these people. So I think the events are fantastic just to build that connection as well. And I found it myself last night as well. It's amazing how quickly I got on well with everyone because we've got similar mindsets.
I think that's it. I think that is it. Like if you put yourself in a room with people that you maybe don't have similar mindsets, similar ambitions too.
Yeah.
The conversation can be almost a little bit awkward. What do we speak about?
Yeah, what do we speak about?
When you're in a room with people who have all the same interests. I always look at it as like, the guys who've gone into entrepreneurship are like the black sheep out of all their friends.
Definitely.
And it's putting all the black sheep in one room.
Yeah, it's true.
Putting them together, and that's kind of, finding the people that you resonate with. And the people that you naturally resonate with have similar interests too. You're obviously going to get on better, and it's a lot easier, and the conversation flows. You're genuinely interested in the things that you're talking about. So, that spark happens a lot quicker.
I think for me as well, I mean, I know you've got extroverts, you've got introverts. I always find that entrepreneurs have a mixture where it's like they're more omniverts in a way, where they can be introverted, they can also be extroverted, but they want to be in rooms where the frequency is high. So it's more about not putting yourself in situations that drain your energy, but actually increase it. And I think that's what you did really well with bringing the guys in last night, and I'm sure you'll continue to do it as well. Everybody in that room was on it.
High energy, positive as
no
well.
negativity, and it was fantastic to see. What is your plans with some of your events moving forward? Have you got anything like that?
Yeah, so obviously with the success of the events we've seen recently, we plan to do those events on a monthly basis. I think it's a great way to celebrate the wins each month and get people together and maybe take them away from the work for a little bit, but also they go in there and it's essentially going to build their business, build new opportunities, build new connections. So yes, you're going away from business or what you're working on for a couple of hours of an evening, but you're coming away with it with much more. So the plan with the events are eventually start breaching out the UK. So we've had a couple of guys join Evinco recently from all over the world. We've got guys throughout Europe, Netherlands, France, Germany, Spain. Also guys in like South Africa, the Middle East, out in Bali, Australia. So how do we get those guys involved with the UK entrepreneurs? We've got plans to do trips into Europe, into Asia, all over the world, to be honest with you. And the events are all going to be resonating around that health mindset and wealth creation, and trying to bring different aspects and different ways of looking at things. So, for example, last night was a Manchester event, busy city, private dining experience, a little bit more luxurious lifestyle. I want to do it where we go out to the middle of nowhere and we camp and we all sit around a fire and make a few steaks with each other, but still have those same conversations, because you're trying to find that discomfort as well in a togetherness environment. But yeah, going out and seeing new places together and being able to train out there, work out there together. And also, the reason we, again, touching on it, we do this stuff is to enjoy it and exploring new places together with people you resonate with. I just think that's the reason we all started in the first place. So I think that's a huge...
It is really exciting as well, because I think for you as the founder as well, seeing everybody in the community grow together, it must give you a lot of satisfaction.
It does, yeah, because like I say, the idea, and that's something that maybe I haven't touched on enough, but like I say, when traveling the world, and I was on my own for the best part of it, a lot of it, working on my business, and I'm seeing these beautiful places, I'm meeting amazing people, but I was sat there and thought, how cool would it be to be doing this with, like, 10 guys who are also on exactly the same vibe as me, who are trying to build whatever they're trying to build, but they also want to go explore the world. They also want to go train at cool beach gyms and things like that. I mean, doing it on your own is cool and you learn a lot about yourself, but doing it with people that really align with you and you get on with is even better.
I think it always falls back into that people thing, isn't it? About being around good people. That's really what's going to light you up in the end, is seeing other people win. And I know we touched on that a minute ago about people in the UK not wanting to see other people win. Do you think it's worth maybe moving out of your hometown as an entrepreneur? How important is that?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you are wanting to, especially in the UK, if you're wanting to be amongst people who are like yourself, there's obviously going to be a certain few people in your hometown, wherever you are, that are like that. But I think moving to big cities is where you're going to find the opportunities, the connections, where things happen.
Definitely.
Do you know what it is? It's fast-paced living. So, like, things that might take you 3 years to do in your hometown, you might get done in 6 months here, because the urgency and the energy and stuff here, and the people you're working with, it's done that day. It's, they want to work fast, they want to work efficiently. And I think that's something I've noticed since being here, like week to week. You just get a lot more done than when you're in your hometown.
Definitely. I mean, I saw something from Elon Musk recently, which was super interesting. How can you fit your 10-year goals and try and make them happen in 6 months? And even if you don't achieve your 10-year goals in 6 months, you've set the foundation of probably quite
You're going to get somewhere.
You're going to get somewhere.
Closer than you were.
It's going to be closer. Building Evinco, did you have any past experience of building a community? How long kind of was the process of, I want to structure it in this way? Was there anything inspirational-wise that dictated how you built it?
To be honest, not really much experience. I've always been quite a leader and knowing how to pull people together. Introducing people to each other. Like I say, quite a powerful networker. And like I said, lived all over the world, met people from all over the world. And I think I've took pieces from all those people I've met, all the different places and the way they did things, and tried to implement it into one.
Yeah. Sure.
Now, I think the idea, like I say, it did just come from, I just thought, how cool would it be to do this sort of experience? And I think as a young man in your 20s, the level of like freedom and sort of, that freedom aspect, the level of freedom I felt when I could just do whatever I wanted every day, and kind of was like somewhat living the dream that I set out from quite a young age.
Yeah.
I just think every young man in their 20s or in their early career should experience that. And if I can help as many people experience that as I can, I guess that's something that's massively on my goal list. I want these great people that I'm working with to experience that feeling that I was fortunate enough to have. And, I guess in some aspects, I not necessarily got lucky, but I got things right quite early. And now some people don't have the knowledge, the experience, maybe the support that they need to do that. But having people around them that have done it, and that's something I've always kind of give advice to. Speak to the people who have done the things you want to do. Ask them how they do it, because the chances are these people who are in these positions are actually great people too, and really want to help you. And like, I still even do it and speak to people who are in positions, or they do things that I really like the look of, and speak to them about how they did it and gain information from. And most people are pretty good and want to help you. And I think that's the beauty of it in entrepreneurship. Everyone is quite helpful and will look out for each other, because I guess they've been in that position before, and they can see that, you know, younger version themselves or further back in the journey version themselves, and they think, you know, it's cool to help people at the end of the day.
I think it's very true in the fact that I think there's kind of two sides to it, in a way where you need to help people in terms of, because when you're trying to come up and do your thing, you want the help yourself, and you know how much that means. So for me, if I can give back and give people opportunities to work with me, even if it's for free and I just see your potential, like I actually don't mind doing it if I see you going to a place. But I also think in terms of the advice you get from other people, try and find the people that have done it before you and then learn from them. Go and find a mentor who's already made it in the industry that you want to make it in. Go and find communities like Evinco Club, because it's going to allow you to get new, fresh perspectives and then move forward with that. And back to that lone wolf thing of, when you try and do it on your own as well, you don't need the weight of the world on you anyway. You're young. You've got so many different things going through your head anyway. You know, relationship, this girl breaking up with you, whatever it may be. And if you can lean on a brother, whoever it is, you know, that's really what life's about, in my opinion.
I agree with you. And I think, like you say, that investment in yourself, an investment in yourself is never a bad investment, whether that's you're invested in something like Evinco to meet people, whether that's invested into an online fitness coach because you want to get in better shape. But yeah, I think finding these people and sort of in business and things like that. A little story about my business partner who now runs Evinco alongside me, James. So he also runs a marketing agency, Aspire Group. But me and him both had personal shopping, e-commerce backgrounds, and we used to work against each other. Now, we were from similar areas and we both had similar businesses. We used to sort of trade a little bit of stock here and there, and 18, your ego gets in the way, and you think, you know, I'm the better personal shopper. Which, to be fair, I was, you know what I mean? But yeah, so
quality.
We used to we then came up with an idea one day, you know, instead of going against each other, why don't we start selling each other's stock, so it looks like we've got double the amount of stock and essentially double the size in business. And I think, like, chucking that ego out the way and doing that was a huge decision. Now, fast forward now, this was maybe back in 2018, 2019 that me and James started working with each other. We've both done our own things in between, but that relationship was built off essentially being enemies almost. And now we're working together because I understand his skill set. I understand where he's come from throughout the journey. Now, going back to that vision with how I see things going, I would love to see these relationships being built from, say, that event tomorrow. 5 years down the line, we hear two of the guys have started whatever business, or they're working alongside each other and kind of plugged into each other to help each other's go further.
100%.
And I think it's chucking that ego aside and understanding that these guys that you know you're a little bit skeptical to work with because you don't know them, you've not been brought up with them, and they're not the people that are from where you're from, but they're just people like you and me that are also trying to build a better life for themselves. And I think chucking the ego out the way and letting you both win and everyone wins. I think them situations where every single person in the scenario is winning.
Yeah, I think
the best.
Like with the ego thing as well, as long as you can see the characteristics in the person and you have very similar morals. Like, my business partner is very spiritual and he's a man of his word, and I have full trust in him, and we've built up that trust over time as well. For networking as well, a lot of the stuff that we've discussed is about becoming that attractive character, understanding people's characteristics. When picking your business partner, what are the main things that you should look out for? And how necessary do you think it is to have a business partner?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, actually, because there was always this mentality that you should do things on your own, and it isn't always the case. But I think that's just greed with income, to be honest with you. Like, yes, you haven't a split, financial gain with each other, but that doesn't mean to say that you're going to make a lot more if there's two of you, because you might have someone who's got the really like logical side of thinking, creative thinkers. Let's look at Represent. George Heaton, Michael Heaton, right?
Sure. Yeah.
George Heaton is the face of Represent. A lot of people actually don't know Michael Heaton, his brother, exists, but Michael Heaton is essentially the creative director of the business. He's the one who does a lot of the designing. He's the one who's essentially brought it to life. Now, George is the other side of it, where he's the front man for it, and he's very good at what he does. But having those two different people who do each thing is look how successful that's been for them.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think look, if you're looking for characteristics in people that you want to work with, I think values, morals, vision should be similar, but skill sets and skill sets should be different, because if you've got two people with exactly the same skill set, then you're essentially maybe going to bump heads because it's so similar. But whereas, for example, for Evinco, James, he does a lot of the marketing stuff. I trust everything he does with the marketing. I don't question anything he does, because he's a marketing expert, and I understand that. Sure. And it's trusting the people that you work with that they're going to do the job, because they have exactly the same vision of you. You know the quality that they're going to do it to, because you've worked with them for so many years. But yeah, I think when you're picking a business partner, it's something you shouldn't dive into too soon. I think it should be someone that you like you say, you kind of look at and you think, I respect them a lot. I've got a lot of time for them. They've gone out the way to help me before, without asking for any sort of gain from it. They've just done it because they're a good person. I think anyone is moldable. Anyone can learn a skill. But if someone shows like desire, vision, and like we say
even if they're just passionate about having that skill, learning that skill anyway, getting better at that skill. And it's also back to that ego thing of removing your ego, that you're not going to be great at every single area. Even if you're good in 80% of every single area of marketing, sales, you're still going to have 20% missing in different areas.
Yeah.
So distributing that and having the confidence in other people to do their job correctly is a super key part of being an entrepreneur. And I also think it ties in really well of when you are building your team, making sure that there is clarity with the mission at hand. Because I see so many people when they're building their teams, they'll give roles to people and they've not been in the deep end yet. You don't know what they're like in the deep end.
Yeah.
Chuck them in the deep end straight away, because you're going to know how they're going to react to it.
Clarity of direction. You need to all be understanding that, like I say, we said before, you can't map out the vision for 5 years and it be exactly what you expect.
It's going to change, isn't it?
But if you map out the things that you want to achieve, and like you say, you kind of said, this is the point that we'd love to get to, this is why we're doing it, and essentially people work well when they understand the why, and they feel included into it. So make sure that your why is the same. Why do you want this? If you want this because you want to be really materialistic and have all this fancy stuff, or do you want this because you want to help loads of people and be purpose driven and just enjoy the work you do? So you've got to somewhat in the middle meet somewhere with your why and why it works for you both. I think. Would
they carry the brand the way that you would? If the answer is yes, they're probably quite a good person to go for in general, because they see the mission in it. They want to be a part of the mission. And I think sometimes just having that ability, like we say, to just kind of let go, let people do their thing, trust in that, you're going to be successful. And I also realize as well that the best business owners in the world are actually the ones that build the best teams. They're team builders. Yeah. They're leaders. That's what they're good at. And you see these CEOs, they're not particularly the brightest, but they just have that.
It's getting the best out of the people that are there.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
Anyone is capable of anything, but it's how do you unlock that best version of the person? It's keeping them engaged, it's keeping them understood of what the mission is throughout, and and just making them feel a part of something. Everyone wants to be part of something. Everyone wants to feel collaborated. The times where people get sort of disheartened and fed up with things is when they just feel like it's not purpose driven. If you keep that mission purpose driven and people understand overall this is where we're going towards, then I think you can build a great team quite easily. But yeah, teams are very, very important, and it's something that I look to lean on more in the future. Because but I think it's a case of having the right people, like you say.
Yeah,
there's no rush to it. I think
also, you don't
right
need
people.
to. I don't think you need to delegate everything in your business.
No,
especially when you're young as well. Like you do want to learn the skill sets. You don't want to completely neglect
understand the skill sets to some extent.
If you're going to go into an industry, make sure that you understand the skill sets, because if you don't, like, you don't know how to teach the people that you're taking on board.
You don't need
anyway.
to be an expert, but you just need to understand the daily task, what's going on, why are you doing these things.
I think back to the ego thing a bit, I wanted to tie on as well is when actually picking the business model that is for you, you're not always going to have, when you start a business, you may feel like it's the one for you, but I think ever so quickly, I think every entrepreneur, they go into this, like this emotional cycle of change where they kind of have that uninformed optimism. They then go into the pessimism stage, then they go into like the valley of despair where everything goes wrong. And then slowly, if you keep on going through that path where most people quit at that stage 3, the valley of despair stage, then you can push on and move in the right direction. But I also find that when businesses start out, like YouTube started off as a dating site.
Yeah.
And then they became what they became. So your first business model may not be the one that you do forever, but removing your ego from that and just keep on going, progressing, being creative about the things that you're implementing, I think that is actually how you get success in the end.
I agree, and that's obviously I've been in other business models before, and I think as you grow, you just learn that maybe that's not for you. And something that I'm a big believer on, like we go back into maybe the more spiritual philosophy stuff, is the Japanese philosophy, which is like ikigai, which is like you sort of intertwine the things you're good at, the things that you're passionate about. The things that you can make money from,
what the world needs,
and what the world needs. Yeah. So how do you twist that into one business? Now, I did a lot of. When I went out to Japan, I had a little bit of time there, and I kind of really got deep into some of their philosophies, things like Kaizen, Ikigai, and really dive into like how they were doing things in life and why they were using these philosophies. Now, that was one that really stood with me, Ikigai, at the time, because maybe when I went around the world and things like that, I kind of learned a lot about myself. And I thought maybe the e-commerce background, I wasn't really engaging with people. It was a Shopify store that had successful points of it, but it would just be no interaction with actual humans. Now, a skill of mine was always interacting with other people and getting the best out of people in a leadership mentality. Now, I just sat down one day, I drew out the Ikigai ropes coming off and them all intertwined in each other. And I said, what are the things I'm good at? What does the world need? What am I passionate about? And that's where I actually just sort of pulled all points together. And that's the idea of Evinco came from all of those. It sort of funneled in from each of them. And I think, like you said, being in that real world experience and that like peaceful environment in Japan and learning the philosophy like directly from them, it was like that little light switch moment. Like, that's definitely exactly kind of what I need to build. Now, I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but that's something now in the works for the next. So that was maybe last year. So yeah, just over a year ago that idea kind of twigged with me. And the progress that it's made in a year and to what it is now and making it happen over time, adding to it and changing little things. But that was kind of where the idea sparked from.
I think another thing as well, you gave yourself the time, the space, the relaxation to almost have that vision. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they sit down at their computers every single day. They're so dialed in with refining their systems. But that next stage of money that you make, you need to go maybe on a long walk through a forest.
Clear your head.
You need to clear your head. You need to give yourself time just to know what you want out of life. And I think Ikigai is a great framework to do that as well.
I think that's exactly what it was. And like I say, I was just sat in a peaceful environment and just letting my thoughts run free a little bit. I was on my own, didn't know anyone there. I thought this is the clearest my head has ever felt.
Cut the distractions. You don't need them there.
In the e-commerce world and things like that before I took that trip, things were just... You just did things because it moved the needle. It wasn't necessarily that I enjoyed them anymore. Things were things were changing in that industry a little bit that didn't really resonate with what I wanted to build. So, yeah, I think sitting down, clear vision, clear head, and getting into a new environment that's unfamiliar to you can unlock new things in your brain that you didn't actually know were there.
Yeah, definitely. Getting outside your comfort zone and meeting new people, new cultures, it's going to unlock something in your brain, which I think is fantastic. Back to kind of like the framework of that, like, how did you come up with the name of Evinco? It's really original.
Evinco is a Latin name for overcome and conquer. So
okay,
that's
cool.
exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to overcome like mediocrity, like not living the sort of the average day-to-day life. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think you get a lot of these things now, and they're too direct with exactly what we are. Like this club or this. I wanted to come with something that's a little bit more. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Help people conquer their dreams. Help people overcome the struggles that they're going through. Whether that's in whatever area, and just have a place that they feel safe, and also can lean on people, like I say, for whatever area of life. Like we look to build out. We've got a guy currently who we're taking on within Evinco who's going to start running like charity men's mental health events. So that's something I feel very strongly about with, previous experience in life and things like that. I've lost people to men's mental health, and that's something that I've always wanted to implement in it, because I think, like you say, men together, grouping together, are a lot stronger than people on their own. And like you say, you keep seeing these statistics and things on that side of how many men do struggle. And I want to make people understand that involvement with good people and having good people around you is so important. So like I say, if there are people out there who end up watching this and they do need people to speak to, or want to get involved in these things where we're going to be pushing our limits, doing sort of our ultra marathons and doing these for the things that for people who maybe can't do it, and inspiring them that mental resilience and keep pushing limits and how far you can go is a good thing for your mind. So that's the next thing we want to bring in, and maybe later in the year where we're gonna try and run something for a charity, like an ultra marathon somewhere across the UK. A team of us are going to do that. So that's another aspect that I want to bring into it. So there's so many channels it can come off, and so many people and great people that I want to get involved in it as we scale.
I think there's definitely an interesting. I mean, we can go into this really. I definitely think in the UK now, and even in the Western world, we have a lot of men that are struggling. And having that community element where you can lean on one another, it's super important. Why do you think we're going through this men's mental health crisis
I don't think life's easy as a man. And now I'm not saying that it's easy for anyone, but as a man, I think in this day and age, there's a lot of pressure to be something, and to be something at such a young age. Like you see, like again, touching on the social media, you see these people who've been successful at the age of 21, and good on them. You know what I mean? I'm glad they have, but it's not realistic. Like, your journey is your journey, and don't feed into all that too much, because a lot of it, one, is a facade. A lot of it's fake. Yeah. You don't know where these people have come from. They could have had a lot more support in you. Every single person's journey is different. So, like I say, especially for the younger viewers and things on this podcast, just don't dive into that too much. Just focus on the things that you're doing well every day. And as long as you keep getting better and you're progressing in the right direction, even if it's very slowly. It's a quote, and one of my good friends always says it to me when, like, I ever doubt myself or have any disbelief. He's always just say, just stay in the game long enough to win. Because if you just stay in it, eventually you will win, or you'll be in a much better position than you were in the early days. But I think going back onto the men's mental health, I just think the ease, like we say, for the lust of things is so easy and so accessible these days that no one really has to do anything or work for anything to get that gratification. Like, the dopamine hits are so easy, like, these days, that you can get them from pretty much anything. Now, the things that I get my dopamine off is like training hard, time with family,
natural
dopamine. And I think if you're a man who's struggling in this area at the moment, I think just focus on those natural dopamine. You might sometimes wake up and think, the last thing I want to do right now is just go to the gym, work out, whatever. But I'm telling you, you'll never ever feel worse for doing it.
Yeah, you always feel better.
I had a couple of guys at the event yesterday, and they're guys who were quite very successful businessmen and things like that, but maybe a little bit shy. And like, I can see elements of that in them where they struggle to come to those events. But like, I've had conversations with a couple of the guys and been like, you know, just make sure you come down. Everyone there is exactly what you expect. Like, you deserve to be there as much as anyone else.
100%. I think a lot of it is just about showing up. And I want to go back to about having a lot of this dopamine that men are facing. I think the natural essence of a man is to go out and seek and find new opportunities and put yourself in tough positions, and that's what's going to enable you to grow. I mean, I know in a lot of tribes that they would throw the kid into the forest and he'd come back, and in that solitude he'd build him into a man. You've gone from a child into a man. I think as a guy, you have so many different areas you need to cover. And I think in today's society, we expect men to do it in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
And it's unrealistic. So I would always say to guys, give yourself a longer time frame and don't put too much pressure on yourself.
When it happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Time needs to play itself out anyway. I mean, even when you learn a lesson, you might have to watch that video over and over again.
If you learn it in the end, it doesn't really matter. I think it's having tough love for yourself too.
Yeah, 100%.
Understanding that, like, you're being very hard on yourself, but the reason that you're doing it is because essentially it's going to make you the person that you want to become. And I think just doing hard things, like, the mind is limitless, and if you tell yourself you can't run a marathon, you definitely can.
You definitely can, yeah.
You can do anything, like, you honestly can. People who say, you know, I couldn't do that. I don't understand the reasons to why you couldn't do that. It's being self-aware of that you can actually do anything. Now, yeah, that does take some discipline, that does take some commitment, but if you really want to do something, you can actually do it. And I know you hear these sort of little quotes and that being thrown around a lot, but it's like, I want to sort of say it from just being like us two guys, just two normal guys. You might see it on, you know, huge celebrities saying these things and stuff like that, and you don't know what opportunities they have in front of them. But two normal guys who are just kind of getting after it day in, day out, like, if you stick to the things that you're going after and keep going after them, there isn't anything that you can't achieve.
I want to speak on a bit about like the hand you're dealt as well, because I think there's this huge misconception where people feel like their circumstances are going to play a huge factor of where they end up. And in many cases they do. I always tie into the psychology of how you should bring up Western children now is to teach them how to network.
Yeah.
And in other cultures, you could be raised in a place where you're financially not very well off, and you may be susceptible to quite a lot of danger. They might be taught how to fight, maybe. Okay. Or in other cultures, economically, they're not very successful, but there is no danger. You might get taught to go to the markets and learn how to sell.
Yeah.
So I think if you're in the Western world especially, focus on building yourself into that character to network with people. I actually think it's less about being really, really good at making money, but more about who you know.
It's always that who you know.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
That network. It is about who you know, and the opportunities do come from who you know. The more people you know, the more opportunities you're going to get. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. But
it's not always about you don't have to be the most talented. And I think with circumstances as well, I mean, if you're like a trust fund kid, you've been given everything your whole life. You've not actually been given the right tools to get after it at all. No. Because you've even if you do get the stuff and you do work for it, it's not going to feel the same. The fact that you've had the circumstance where you've not got everything and then you get everything, that's what gives it value. The fact that it's difficult is what gives it value.
I think sometimes those like the trust fund kids get a bit of a hard time. Like they can't kind of help the position they've been brought up in.
Yeah, true.
I look at it as like more from a perspective of, if I was a parent, I would make my child understand just the value of money and the value of having to work hard for things. Like, to say I'm not come from anywhere near a bad background. I've been brought up very well, but I was always taught that like you have to work for the things that I want.
That's it. It's not actually about. I think your parents can be successful and raise you in a way that allows you to have the grit to go after things. The grit is what's going to get you to where you want to be anyway. But at the end of the day, if you're raised and you've been given everything in your life, you just don't have any backbone.
Yeah.
So,
and I think you're inspired by your parents a lot of the time. If you've always just had handouts from them, and it's just been an easy life as a child, you get to the point where like you're buying your first car, or you're buying your first house. You should be buying those things for yourself. Your parents, in my opinion, they're there to support you and things like that, but they're there to support you so that you understand how life works, and to that point where you can go and then make your own money. Like, for example, my mum was a single mum raising me and my brother, and she's ran her own successful business throughout that while raising 2 children. So I just think like, if a single mum of 2 can run a business, raise 2 children that have, gone on to do reasonably good things and are happy in life, then why me as a 25-year-old man with no responsibility, why can I not achieve running my own business? And the stress and the things that goes into to raising kids and having responsibilities, but also having responsibility to run your own business is absolutely massive. So I think like you kind of get inspired from the people around you, and I think that's quite a lot where with my like mentality of just getting after things and just having that mentality to just get things done regardless of the situation, because I'm a big believer in like whatever your scenario, whatever your external circumstances are, you still need to do the things you need to do to move forward. Like,
definitely,
in the day, it's not going to happen unless you do it.
I think for me, where I'm at today, especially with my story, I had a lot of rejection growing up with football, and it really allowed me to have the mentality I have today, where a lot of stuff does bounce off me, especially with the exterior stuff. I think because of the overexposure of information and how much we get fed every single day, I think it's very important to discern a lot of it in a way. Don't let it affect you too much, because, how quickly can you get back to center where you're just centered in your approach to everything that you do? Because then you can make good decisions. If you feel like, as a guy especially, you're about to make an emotional decision, just wait, pause, relax.
Wait 24 hours and make the decision.
Give yourself some time and then make the decision. And the likelihood is you're not only going to make a better decision, you'll probably make a very different decision as well.
I agree with that. I think that's a very important one, especially as young men. A lot of people act out of anger and emotion quite quickly. But yeah, like you say, don't let that ego get in the way. Just try and remain emotional control, and that's a skill in itself. And I think that just comes from life also experience is how you learn that. I think, to be honest,
it's an attractive quality as well. You naturally attract people into your life by doing that. And I think a lot of it as well is that when you go through life and you try and chase everything all the time, and you're always grabbing, if you always grab stuff, it's going to move away from you. Just try and put yourself in the right position. I think Jeff Bezos says, position yourself in a way where the wave crashes into you.
It's like that don't chase, attract, isn't it?
With every
100% aspects of life, don't chase things. Just do the things that attract the right things that come to you.
And you do that by learning the information and then going and experiencing it. Without the experience, you don't know if it's real or not.
That's true, yeah.
Most human beings, they only change once they wrap their car around a tree. You need to kind of be speeding to get the ticket, and they're like, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah. Like, life experience teaches you not to do that again.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it has complications and consequences, I guess. So you sometimes do have to learn from your mistakes, and you can tell people over again, don't do that. And they might do it, but then when they do it, they won't do it again. And I think sometimes you do have to just learn from your mistakes in all different areas of life.
Okay, bro, I want to have some fun with this. If you were stuck on a desert for the rest of your life, and you had one song, one person, and one item of food, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a tough question. One song
forever. Actually, let's do 3 songs, because one song that'll get a bit repetitive.
Yeah. I'd say like a little Bob Marley playlist,
Yeah, nice.
Chill like that. If we're on a desert island, some Bob Marley style stuff.
Any song in particular?
I like Little Island Life ones, like Three Little Birds kind of vibe.
Yeah, nice.
Bit of a hippie vibe to it, to be fair.
No, bro, it's good.
But one person, I think that's the hardest bit of that question. One person
forever. You got to listen to them day in, day out.
I'd say my granddad. He's probably my closest person I'm with. The person that's like, always, I mean, I don't want to just say him, but
Yeah.
the whole family have obviously always been there for me. But he's someone that I've always looked up to, stepped up, and he's been a great role model for me. And he's someone that, regardless of where I've been at in life, what I'm doing, has just always supported the process, always said positive things, and he still does to this day. So I'd say
That's fantastic. It's really good.
Food.
Food. I said 1 piece. We'll make it 3 pieces of food.
I just think like
instead.
it can't be just solid steak, bro. That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah, right.
Like
Keep it simple.
Just keep it simple with that. That's probably my go-to meal, which is a bit.
Okay, cool.
Bit of a, yeah.
So obviously the podcast is called Manners Maketh Man. What is one manner you think every man should have in his life?
I think emotional control, emotional self-regulation. So understanding, like what we've mentioned quite previously in this podcast, about that short-term gratification into long-term validation. So understanding the process, doing the things that are going to move you forward in life.
Definitely.
Looking at those tasks and really evaluating and being self-aware of the things that you're doing day in, day out. Is that something that your future self and the person you want to become would do? So yeah, I think emotional self-regulation, and also just the power of network. Obviously I'm huge on network, and that's what the business model is built behind, but
Sure.
taking opportunity, you don't know when that opportunity might come around again. So I think having that conviction to take opportunity, if I have to round it off in 2 points, I'd say those 2 points were the two things that have moved the needle most for me, and for a lot of the guys that I work with, I think they'd probably agree with those 2 points.
Well, bro, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for jumping on. Top man.
Yeah,
thank you very much
you.
for yesterday as well. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, guys.
It,
see you in the next one. Peace.